As we continue our study of economics, I wanted to walk you through this particular lesson on economics. We're going to take a closer look and narrow our lens to the United States economy as a whole because there's so many different facets to the United States economy. I wanted to make sure that we took a look at it, and what of course is expected of you of your interactive notes, um, together. So the US economy has four different sectors: household, private businesses, banking, and government. And we're going to take a look at each of these four different sectors over the next few minutes. And you're going to be asked to take a look at each of these four different sectors. So here's what I want you to do. Let me back up for just a minute. You're going to want to take this video and the notes and follow along with the notes and the video and split screen on your iPad or PC, whatever device that you're using. That way you can hear the video and then stop and pause the video and fill in your notes as um, as directed in the video. So go ahead and set up that split screen now. Pause the video, set up your split screen. That way you can get that done. So, like I was saying, there are four different sectors to the US economy that, when those people that study the economy, called economists, they break it down into four different sectors in order to see what is influencing the economy and how our money is moving through our government and our businesses, through our nation. So the first is, what do we mean by households? Our households are the ones that consume our goods and our services. In other words, consume means takes part of and uses. Remember, consumes means uses. Private businesses are the ones that produce those goods and services. Remember that vocabulary term: produce means makes or provides. So, produce means makes or provides, consumes means uses or partakes in. Banking are those institutions that provide checking accounts, savings accounts, and loans. And government, it provides certain goods and services through taxation. So you need to know that although these four sectors of the economy are very different, they do work hand in hand to make up our economy as a whole. So let's take a look at our households, the household sector of our economy closely first. The first thing I want you to do is take a look at what a good is. A good is something that you can touch or hold. I want you to pause for just a moment and name 5 goods that your household purchases. In other words, anything that you can touch or hold through that sense. What are 5 things that your household purchases? For example, I would say that my house purchases a lot of Doritos, my favorite snack, shampoo, bread, pens. I'm always running out of pens for some reason. Paper and milk. What would your good list look like? Pause the video, write that down in your notes. Next, we come to services. A service is something that someone does for you. So name 5 services that your household uses. For example, if you go to the hairdresser, so my services list would look like something like the hairdresser, dentist, optometrist, pediatrician, obstetrician, and um, doctor. So, what would your services household look like? Private businesses. Remember, private businesses are those businesses that produce those goods and services that sell and then turn around and sell them to households. And a producer is a person who then makes that particular good or service. So, and then a consumer is a person who buys that good or service. So I want you just to pause the video for a moment, go to your notes, and I want you to think of a particular example of a producer and a consumer. So in your notes, describe an example of producer and then describe an example of a time when you were a consumer. So here we have an example of a baker and a person eating that bread. So you can't use those examples. Um, so I want you to come up with a different example of your own of a producer and a consumer. If I were coming up with my own example, I would say I went to a dentist who gave me a filling, and then I would be the consumer who then had a brand new filling in my tooth that no longer hurt. So my dentist would be the producer, and I would be the consumer with no more achy tooth. What would be your example? Pause the video and give me another example of producer and consumer. Consumers and businesses. Well, people have to work to earn their money, and this work is called labor. People sell their labor through their businesses in order to earn their income. And some businesses, as we have seen, are more profitable than others. But there are so many types of businesses out there that require different types of labor. And some types of work require specialized skill. A fast food worker does not require a specialized degree, whereas teachers have to go to college for 4 or more years. Take it from me, it requires more in order to earn a teaching license. Lawyers go to college for 7 years. So, who do you think will be paid more? If you said the lawyer, you are right. When people get education after their school, their labor, in theory, is supposed to be worth more. So, the more education that you get, it does affect the rest of your life. However, there are still jobs out there who pay a great deal of money, even with just some continuing education. And we're going to actually explore that in our next lesson. So, let's think of the word employer. An employer is a person who hires a worker. Why do you think an employer is willing to pay an employee more if they have continued their education after high school. Pause the video and answer this question in your notes. Remember, your response should be in complete sentences. And think about what I want from a written response. It should be multiple sentences with a great deal of thought put into your response. So pause the video, put your answer in your notes. However, not everyone wants to work for an employer. So, an entrepreneur is someone who takes a risk to start their own business. And they often develop new goods and services. And sometimes those new goods and services even revolutionize what we call the market, the place, the theoretical place where people buy goods and services. And because they take a risk, they often have to borrow money from a bank or an investor to start their business. They just, a lot of investors don't just have that money lying around at first. They have to first get money in order to make money. They don't know if their money, if their idea or their business or their service is going to make money or not. That's why it's called a risk. They may make money or they may lose money when they start this business, when they try to invest in this idea. So it begs the question, why would they take this risk? Pause the video, answer this question in your notes. I want you to name an entrepreneur that you know. You can either personally know this person, know this entrepreneur, or this could be somebody famous that is an entrepreneur. Some famous entrepreneurs, Thomas Edison. You don't remember, he made a lot of failures before perfecting that light bulb. And then he sold it for a crud ton of money. The Wright brothers. Remember, the Wright brothers owned a bicycle shop before they came down to little old Kitty Hawk and flew that first airplane. They were entrepreneurs. You don't think that they decided to try flight just for the sake of science. No, it was for money. They were smart entrepreneurs. Alexander Graham Bell. Remember, he did that telephone not just for the sake of science. He sold the idea and made money. George Washington Carver uh, was a pioneer for Black scientists everywhere. He pioneered the method of crop rotation. Now, okay, I know it sounds weird, but if you don't rotate your crops in the soil, in other words, if you keep planting the same crop in the same patch of soil over and over and over again, you deplete soil of its nutrients. But George Washington Carver figured out that if you rotate your crops and plant corn in one field and then maybe like soybeans or wheat the next, you actually mix it up and you don't deplete the soil of its nutrients. He sold this idea and taught it to other farmers and made a buku buck of money. Again, he was an entrepreneur. He didn't just do it for the sake of science. He made money off of his ideas. Let's take a look at some videos about a video about teens who turned their ideas into successful businesses, teen entrepreneurs. Okay, I'm going to let you watch the rest of that video on your own. But for as far as your notes are concerned, I want you to be able to summarize your own learning in your own words. And I want 2 or 3 sentences for each of these answers, for each of these questions on this last slide. Um, so even after you give me a definition in your own words, for even like what is a consumer and what is a producer, you should be able to give me an example or talk about it, um, something different than what you gave me on the slide before. So I hope you watch the rest of the video, even though it's about 20 minutes long. It really is interesting. After you're done with the rest of your notes, and have double checked everything, don't forget to submit it to Canvas for credit. If you have any questions, hit me up. Have a good day.